Hey there, and welcome to episode 3 of Nobody Circles the Wagons Better Than BJL. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the conclusion of the dynasty that was the Buffalo Bills of the early 90s. Still one of the greatest teams, and I will argue that until my deathbed. After Super Bowl 25, I started making football a part of my life. While I still wasn't able to watch every game, I was pretty much just following along with newspaper articles, the bottom line, TV coverage, and all that good stuff. Being that this team was as good as it was, they played a lot of national televised games, so that helped me out. So the 1991 season saw the Buffalo Bills finish at 13-3, winning the AFC East and grabbing the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. Their no-huddle K-gun offense once again dominated the league by gaining an NFL-leading 6,525 yards and the second most points with 458 behind the Washington Redskins, who they ultimately played in the Super Bowl. Both Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas had their best seasons of their careers in 1991. Kelly led the league in touchdown passes, and Thurman won both the NFL Offensive Player of the Year and the NFL MVP. The Bills clinched the AFC East in Week 14, and finished the season off with a 5-game lead over second place New Jersey Jets. With the first round bye, the Bills' first playoff game was a home game and saw the Kansas City Chiefs come rolling on into Orchard Park for an ass whooping. The Bills jumped out to a 24-0 lead in the third quarter, and it just was downhill from there on out for the Chiefs. The Bills ultimately won the game 37-14. The AFC Championship game was also played in Orchard Park, seeing that they had the number 1 seed overall, and that game was played against the Denver Broncos. This is the infamous game where my father told me I was not allowed to be a Bills fan any longer. The game went into halftime scoreless as Denver's defense was holding the Bills' potent K-gun no-huddle offense in check. The Bills' only touchdown of the game actually came when nose tackle Jeff Wright tipped a pass from John Elway and landed right into the arms of linebacker Carlton Bailey, and he returned it for a touchdown. God, look at the quality of this video. Oh, there it is. Jeff Wright, Carlton Bailey. Run it. Oh, nice attempt, Elway. Nice attempt. That's a touchdown. That sure is a touchdown. That's right. Get excited. Bills, look at him throwing snowballs. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. Oh, Dan Reeves, I love that guy. He was good. Get it? Hell yeah. Man, that stadium had to have been crazy in the early 90s. What I wouldn't give to go to a game in the early 90s during those years. Oh, there's that guy. So after all that wonderfulness, the Bills eventually tacked on a field goal to take a 10-0 lead late into the fourth quarter. Now this is where things got exciting and interesting. John Elway suffered a deep thigh bruise in the fourth quarter and was removed from the game and replaced by Gary Kubiak, who actually led them downfield to score their first touchdown of the game. So with less than 2 minutes left to go in the game, the Broncos trailed the game 10-7, and they attempted an onside kick, to which Steve Atwater, safety for the Denver Broncos, recovered the onside kick, and I went crazy. I went nuts. I thought my father was going to kill me. Of course I was rooting for the Bills, but that was the first time I had ever seen an onside kick actually get recovered. Furthermore, seeing the Broncos celebrating on the field, something inside me, I still had emotional ties to this team. I was a fan. I was 14 years old. I didn't know what was going on. Of course I was excited. I would have been excited if anybody was playing. My father got so angry with me for rooting against the Bills. I remember his exact words to the day. I better not hear you or see you rooting for the Bills in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks from now. So now, after recovering the onside kick, obviously the Broncos have great field position. Kubiak trotted out there with the offense in tow. First play from scrimmage, Kubiak over the middle to running back Steve Sewell. Blasted by Kirby Jackson, defensive back by the Buffalo Bills, fumbles the ball away, recovered by the Buffalo Bills. Game is sealed. Or so we thought. All right. Kubiak sits back. It's getting exciting. Oh boy. Oh, and there it is. And there it is. Fumble. Fumbleia. Recovered. Point, ref. Point. There it is. Buffalo Bills ball. Sorry, Mr. Reeves. Kubiak was in such a crappy situation. Man, there he is. Mr. Elway. I always wonder how this game would have panned out if he would have been playing healthy and stayed in this game. Nice tackle. Nice way to punch that ball out. Nice. And Sewell almost gathered it back in. Look at this. Ball comes loose. Look, he's got his hand on it. He almost pulls it, and by him pulling it in, he kind of pulled it towards Kirby Jackson to craziness. The Bills had to eventually punt that ball away, but they stopped the Broncos and actually won the game, moved on to their second Super Bowl in as many years. The emotions that I experienced with this game it was like a roller coaster ride. I wasn't sure if I was a Bills fan or a Broncos fan. According to my dad, I was not allowed to be a Bills fan, but I knew I wasn't a Broncos fan. And this game, the way the Bills came back and won this game at the end after the onside kick, I knew I was a Bills fan. I knew I was a Bills fan for life. It was a few years later when the Broncos went to back-to-back Super Bowls, beating the Packers and then the Falcons, that I knew that I could actually release them from my heart. I always had that subliminal love for them, even though I had converted to being a Bills fan full-time. They were still always just something. The Broncos always still had a place in my heart, and when they won those 2 Super Bowls, I felt at peace with my decision. I finally got to see them win, and I moved on. So next up for the Buffalo Bills was Super Bowl 26 against the Washington Redskins, the only team that had a better offensive season than the Buffalo Bills. The Bills were dominated in such an embarrassing fashion. The final score was actually 37-24, but the game wasn't as close as the score suggests. The Bills scored 2 touchdowns late in the game in garbage time to make it sound like it was close, but it wasn't. Jim Kelly actually threw 4 interceptions in that game. It's just so embarrassing. The highlight of the actual game was the In Living Color halftime show that they had. You had to tune into another channel to watch In Living Color. That's pretty much the highlight of the game for me. Or Thurman Thomas not being able to find his helmet. He missed the first 2 plays on offense of the Super Bowl because he couldn't find his helmet. That became a joke against him and against the Bills for years to come. The Bills ended the game with 43 rushing yards. 43 rushing yards as a team. A fun fact, the Bills were the first team to ever lose back-to-back Super Bowls. Little did we know at that time. But the first team to lose back-to-back games. Super Bowls. Good stuff. 1992, the following season, saw the Buffalo Bills finish the regular season at 11-5. However, the Miami Dolphins also finished 11-5, so they were tied for the AFC East lead. The Dolphins owned the tiebreakers because they had a better conference record than the Bills, so they were awarded the AFC East, where the Bills only got the wild card. The only really fun fact about the regular season in 92 was in Week 2 when the Bills played the San Francisco 49ers. They played an entire game without a single punt. And at the time, that was the first time that had ever happened in NFL history. It has since been broken and has happened again. But at the time, that was a memorable thing for the Buffalo Bills. So the first round of the playoffs of the Buffalo Bills had them matched up against the Houston Oilers at home in the wild card round. The Bills had played the Oilers the week before in Week 17 to wrap up the regular season. They had lost that game, and in that game, Jim Kelly was injured and could not start in this wild card game against the Oilers. Frank Reich got the nod. The Houston Oilers absolutely dominated the first half of this game. They sucked the life out of Rich Stadium. 80,000 strong Buffalo Bills fans were hushed, just freezing cold, just watching their team getting crushed. The Oilers possessed the ball for 21 minutes in the first half and went into halftime with a 28-3 lead. Things did not look good, but this is where it got fun. So in the first half, Warren Moon looked like an absolute MVP. He was 19 for 22 for 220 yards and 4 touchdowns. This is a one-half stats. 4 touchdowns in one half with a 28-3 lead. MVP status.
Moon to throw. Little pump fake, comes back, bites some time, throws into the end zone, touchdown. Little play action fake in the end zone, touchdown. Gibbons across in motion, 2 seconds on the play clock. Moon goes deep, and it is caught. What a catch! Moon goes deep, touchdown Houston.
A minute and 41 seconds into the second half, Frank Reich drops back and throws a pick six to see the Houston Oilers take a 35-3 lead in the third quarter of a playoff game. 32-point deficit for the Buffalo Bills.
Opening drive, second half, Oilers up 28-3. Right throws far side. This is intercepted. And down the far sideline is Bubba McDowell. And he will score.
$35-3. We're being embarrassed in the playoffs. I was 15 years old. I was more concerned with hanging out with my friends. Why would I want to stay home and watch the Bills get embarrassed on national TV in the playoffs while everyone is watching? 15 years old, I'm going to the mall. Turned off the game, I left. It wasn't until I got to the mall and I went into a Foot Locker and they had the game on TV and I saw what was going on. So the game is 35-10 right now. I'm in Foot Locker and I see this. Don Beebe wide open. How does he get that wide open? How does he get that wide open? The Oilers must just thought the game was over. So now I knew I need to get home to watch the rest of this game. So while we're racing home, me and my uncle, I'm listening to the game in the car because it's a playoff game and it's on the radio, and I hear Andre Reed score a touchdown to cut the lead to 35-24. We're down by 11. I need to get home. I need to get home now.
19 yards, first down at the 26. Right, nice touch, has another man open. Back pedaling into the end zone is Andre.
As I walk in the door, they're showing the replay of a Henry Jones interception that had just happened. The Bills just got the ball back after an interception. I'm going apeshit. So it's 35-24 right now. We're down by 11. Need to stop these guys. Oh! How does that happen? How does that happen? What is going on? I don't understand. I don't understand. I really don't get it. Everything was going right. Everything was going right for this team. Look at that crowd. Buffalo Bills fans. What I wouldn't give to be there. Whoa, take it easy, Myles Garrett. Oh my goodness. 3 plays later on 4th and 5, Frank Reich finds Andre Reed for yet another touchdown to cut the lead to 35-31. What is happening? 4th and 5. Let's go. And Andre Reed. That is one of my most favorite catches I had ever seen. So memorable watching him slide like that. Craziness. In less than 7 minutes, the Bills have scored 28 points. Insane. After one of the most wildest quarters in NFL football history, the action kind of slowed down in the fourth quarter. It wasn't until about 3 minutes left that Frank Reich once again found Mr. Andre Reed in the end zone, this time to take the lead for the Buffalo Bills. Touchdown, baby. Here we go. Here we go. Frank Reich. What? Like how? How does he see him? How is he that open? Was he the over-the-head spike? So famous with Andre Reed. How is he so open? I mean, I understand where the Oilers were playing a little lax earlier, but now like the Bills just took the lead. Like what's going on? Look at that. Look at that crowd, baby. Look at that crowd. Shortly after that, Warren Moon and the Oilers marched right down the field to kick a field goal to tie the game, which was absolutely insane because all the second half they couldn't move the ball at all. But now that they had lost the lead, easily marched down the field, tied the game. I remember the feeling I had in the pit in my stomach. I was so nervous because the Oilers won the coin toss. They received the ball in overtime, and I was nervous. It was like all this is just going to be for naught. I was so upset. That was until 3 plays in, and Nate Odoms did his thing. Oh boy. So nerve-wracking. Overtime. Look at the protection this man's got. Are you kidding me? Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Yeah, Nate. Get it. Look at him. He's trying to win the game. It was shortly after that Steve Christie trotted onto the field, kicked the game-winning field goal, and the Buffalo Bills have completed the greatest comeback in NFL history. 32 points down in the third quarter to come back and win the game, move on to the next round of the playoffs.
They're going to set it at the 22. An attempt of 32 yards for the win.
Only 50% this season from between 30 and 40, as you saw.
It is right down the middle.
If I can go back and be in attendance at any single game in any sporting event history, this is the game that I would choose. I was 15 at the time. If I can go back in time at the age that I'm at right now, I would give anything in the world to be at that game. Unbelievable. I have this game on VHS, 2 copies. I have it on DVD. In fact, I used to sell it on eBay before eBay got wise to me and got me in trouble. Greatest football game ever. Maybe even sporting event ever. Hands down. Hands down. If you're a Bills fan, which I am. Nobody circles the wagons like BJL. So after this amazing comeback, this amazing game, best experience of my life, it was on to the divisional round in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. So Frank Reich got the start again for the injured Jim Kelly. The Bills controlled pretty much the entire game from start to finish. They had 3 turnovers and 7 sacks. They ended up beating the Steelers 24-3 to move on to the AFC Championship against the Miami Dolphins. The game was played in Miami, and Jim Kelly got the start, finally coming back from injury. He didn't play well. He was clearly rusty, having missed the previous couple of weeks. It was the Bills' defense that won this game. They ended up intercepting Dan Marino twice. They had recovered 3 fumbles. They forced 4 sacks, and they held Miami to 33 rushing yards. 33 rushing yards in an AFC Championship game. Defense. Needless to say, the Bills made easy work of the Dolphins, winning the game 29-10. 10 points because they gave up a garbage touchdown really late in the game that didn't even matter. It wasn't even that close. And the Bills were on to their 3rd straight Super Bowl, AFC champions for the 3rd straight year. Boom.
I bring in Coach Marv Levy here. All right, we got Bruce. We got the defense. Now you guys.
Next up for the Bills was Super Bowl 27 that saw them match up against the Dallas Cowboys. I had an insane amount of confidence going into this game because everybody knew that the Bills had that offense, but it was their defense that had stepped up. It was the defense that stopped the Steelers and stopped the Dolphins in the playoffs. Their defense was now playing at the same level as their offense. So going into this game, I had a lot of confidence. There was a lot of similarities between these two teams. There was a lot of matchup comparisons. Thurman Thomas versus Emmitt Smith. Troy Aikman versus Jim Kelly. That confidence very quickly disappeared. The Cowboys scored 35 points off of 9 Buffalo Bills turnovers. Jim Kelly was injured in the 2nd quarter, and Thurman Thomas was held to 19 yards on 11 carries. This actually gave him 32 total rushing yards in the last 2 Super Bowls. This game was an absolute joke, so it was only fitting that one of the funnier, most outrageous, most embarrassing plays in Super Bowl history happened to happen in this game. Like this game even matters. Why not? Why not fumble? Look at this fat bastard. Look at him. Here we go. Here comes BB. Here comes BB. Finally something to root for. Boom. We may have gotten killed in this game, but that right there. Down 52-17 late in the 4th quarter. Reich fumbles the ball away. Leon Lett recovers it and runs almost 64 yards for almost a touchdown. As he starts to showboat, Bills wide receiver Don Beebe chased him down, stripped the ball away, and led to a touchback. Let me tell you, had Lett scored that touchdown, the Cowboys would have broken the record for most points in a Super Bowl. As it was, the Bills lost the Super Bowl 3 years in a row now. First team to ever do that. Yay. So now it was on to the 1993 season, where the Bills finished 12-4, won the AFC East, and clinched the number 1 seed overall. Playoff, home field advantage, all the way through. Some highlights of the year: Bruce Smith won Defensive Player of the Year. Thurman Thomas led the AFC in rushing. So after a first-round bye, the Bills' first game was a home game against the Los Angeles Raiders. And let me tell you, this was one of the coldest games in NFL history.
It is a bitter cold 0-degree day at Rich Stadium in Buffalo. The wind chill factor -25. Snow removal crews have worked 14 to 16-hour days throughout the week, removing snow from the stands and fields that had built up to 3 feet high. It has snowed in the Buffalo area for 28 of the last 29 days. And the Raiders have come here from Southern California packing gloves and ski masks, thermal underwear, and overcoats. That's the setting for this AFC divisional playoff game.
In this game, the Bills overcame a 17-13 deficit by scoring 3 times in a span of 6 minutes and 18 seconds. After the win against the Raiders, it was on to the AFC Championship, where they would be hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Joe Montana. The Bills went on for a 30-13 win over the Chiefs, led by Thurman Thomas's 186 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. A fun fact, this was the 3rd year in a row that the Buffalo Bills had beat a Hall of Famer quarterback to go to the Super Bowl. In 91, they beat John Elway. 92, they beat Dan Marino. And 93, they beat Joe Montana. Fun fact. The Bills were also the very first team ever to win 4 conference championships. Super Bowl 28, rematch with the Dallas Cowboys. There were many sports writers that were really upset with the Bills for making the Super Bowl for the 4th straight time. They think they were just getting tired of the same old thing. I think that they were giving them no shot whatsoever. This game certainly had a different feel from the previous year. In fact, the Bills actually had a 13-6 lead at halftime. It's just a real shame that they actually have to play 2 halves of football. Coming out of halftime in the second half, Thurman Thomas actually fumbled the ball away after being hit by previous year's GOAT, Leon Lett. The ball was picked up by James Washington and returned for a touchdown to tie the game. Went all downhill from there. Here we go again. Oh. James Washington. Terrible. Yeah, I hear you. At least you found your helmet, though, bro. At least you found your helmet. The Cowboys ended up scoring 24 unanswered points and went on to win their 2nd Super Bowl in a row by a score of 30-13. This was 4 Super Bowl losses in a row for the Bills. 4. Thurman Thomas collected 37 rushing yards, which gives him a grand total of 69 rushing yards in the previous 3 Super Bowls. 69 yards. 4 in a row. This is where all the jokes started. How do you spell Bills? B-I-L-L-L-L-S. 4 L's. What does Bills stand for? Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. Buffalo Bills center Kent Hull had an interesting quote at the end of the game, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it straight from. In the immediate future, we'll be thought of as losers, but one day down the road, when I'm no longer playing, they'll say, wow, they won 4 straight AFC championships. They must have been good. Couldn't agree more with that. Which actually leads me to my conclusion. Did the Bills lose 4 straight Super Bowls? Sure did. Were they the punchline of various jokes for years to come? Absolutely. Sure were. But true NFL teams recognize how great these teams were. It's truly embarrassing to lose 4 straight championships in any sport. However, it's truly special to be good enough to dominate your conference for 4 straight years and actually make it to the championship game. Regardless of the jokes that come about the Buffalo Bills, regardless of wide right, anything that comes along with Buffalo Bills joke punchlines, you have to give respect to the fact that this team made the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. They were the conference champions 4 years in a row, and no other team has ever done that. Ever again. And I don't think they ever will again. Well, that's all I got for episode 3. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video. Maybe throw a subscribe at me. Next episode, episode 4, we'll be covering the late 90s, which includes Jim Kelly's retirement, the Rob Johnson versus Doug Flutie debate, the little-known bumping the official debacle that ruined the Buffalo Bills' playoff chances. And, of course, cannot forget the Music City Miracle, or, like us Bills fans like to call it, the illegal forward pass. See ya.
You see Wycheck start to the right. Now, is Dyson behind him? That's the question.
No, it's a forward pass.
This is where he is. This is where he is.